Hi everyone, it's Nina, and I'm here today with Neat and Tangled to share with you a card that I've created using the Winter Wishes stamp set. I'm also going to be showing you in this video how to create your very own custom embossing powder. I made this embossing powder using gold and silver embossing powders, and I'll show you how to do this. To start off with, I'm creating my panel using watercolor paper. I'm going to be die cutting this with the Simon Says Stamp Stitched Rectangles die set. This is the largest of the dies. I chose watercolor paper because I'm going to do some distress inking, and also I'm going to be adding some water in along with my ink blending, and I wanted to make sure I had a nice sturdy cardstock. So now I'm taking this little flourish die from Pretty Pink Posh, and I'm going to be die cutting this along the bottom of my panel here just to give it a nice little edge. So now I'm mixing my embossing powders, and I'm taking both silver and gold and I'm mixing them together into this little canister. I've dumped a little of each into the canister right now, and I'm going to go ahead and shake this up, mix it all around, and then I'm going to add in some more of one of the colors that I think needs it. I decided I needed to add a little more gold, so I mixed that in again. And you'll just keep mixing until you get the desired color that you wanted. I ended up mixing the gold in one more time just to add a little bit more. So now I've got my Misty, and I'm going to be stamping this image, which is from the Winter Wishes stamp set, onto my watercolor paper using Versamark ink. And I'm just going to go ahead and ink this up and then swing the arm over and stamp it down. So now I'm going to add my embossing powders, and I'm going to be careful with how I'm adding this platinum color because I want to make sure that I don't cover any of the snowflakes. So I'm just carefully adding it onto the houses and the trees, and then I'll go ahead and shake off the excess. Before I've heat set anything, I'm going to be taking the white embossing powder and adding that over top of all the snowflakes. So now that I've got everything all heat embossed, I'm taking the sentiment, which is also from the Winter Wishes stamp set, and I'll be stamping it underneath my little houses and trees in a curve. Just going to press that down, and then I'll go ahead and heat set that with the same platinum colored embossing powder that I created. Using some painter's tape, I'm going to be attaching this along the bottom edges of the houses and trees. This is going to be the mask for my skyline when we do our ink blending. So just make sure everything's all covered. So now I'm going to start taking my distress ink, and I'm starting off with Chip Sapphire, doing a light coating of this and just making sure that I try to fade it off into the rest of the card. And I will show you a little technique that I use to do this. I'm going to quickly add my color, and then I'm going to take some water. I'm going to spritz this very heavily and make sure I get all that ink moving. And then I'm going to take my rag and blot this all up. And as you can see, this fades that ink right off into the whiteness of this panel and really helps to make that fade a lot more smooth and transitioned. So I'm adding some more Chip Sapphire in to darken that up. Just going to add some water droplets. Make sure I get a lot of little droplets on there. So once I've dried that, I'm now taking my Seedless Preserve Distress ink, and I'm going to be adding this color along the inner portion of this panel, right in the middle where the trees and the houses are. You don't want to go too dark with this Seedless Preserves because it'll overpower the rest of the image, and you'll lose that faded look. So now I'm taking some Blueprint Sketch. This is a nice mid-tone for the Chip Sapphire and the Seedless Preserves. I'm just going to blend that on top and fade that into the Chip Sapphire. And I'll take some water and go ahead and flick that on as well. So now I'm taking my card base here. This is a 8.5 inch by 5.5 inch piece of cardstock that I'm scoring at 4 1/4. This will make an A2 size card. Just go ahead and fold that over. This is Nina Solar White cardstock. So here I'm playing around with the placement of these papers that I have, trying to decide what I liked best, and I decided I wanted to use this navy paper, but to darken it up and have a little bit more of a purpley tint to it. So I took some Seedless Preserves Distress ink, and I'm just blending that on top of this navy paper. And it helped me keep the texture of the paper, but also have a purpley tone to it, which matched my ink blending on the panel much, much better. Once I've got my papers all ready, I'm going to add them onto my little card base here, using some tape runner to attach them down. Taking the navy paper and adding that along the bottom. And just as a note, you'll notice that I didn't cover the entire card base with either of these two pattern papers that I'm using. And that's simply because the panel that has all of our stamping and everything on it is going to be covering most everything up. So you won't see the middle portion, and hence I could save on paper by only covering a small bit of it. So I'll just take that stripe and add that along the top. And now, of course, I'll cut off the excess as I did with the first piece of paper. Making the papers a bit bigger than they need to be helps me make sure I get every inch of the paper covered. I'm using some American Crafts Baker's twine to make this little twine bow at the top. Just making a little bow and putting it on the left corner of this card base. Finally, I'm taking some sequins. These are some delphinium and iridescent sequins by Lucy's Little Things. Just attaching them onto my little panel here using some PPA matte glue. I was having trouble deciding where I wanted to place this last sequin, and I ended up deciding to place it right there, but then it got stuck to my tweezers and it flipped all the way across the card. Had to pick that back up and wipe off the glue and put it back down again. And that finishes off my card. So I hope you've enjoyed. Be sure to head over to the Neat and Tangled blog, where you'll have more information and pictures on how I made this card, as well as the products used. Thanks so much for stopping by. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and we'll see you again soon.